G'day, welcome to Pub for Heretics, where you're welcome with Blake.
This is James.
And Corbin.
And today we're going to be talking about Chaos
Space Marine!
And we're going to see how we go along with this.
Yeah, so I've come up with a running title for this, specifically just to piss off Blake. What makes a Chaos Space Marine cooler than normal Space Marines?
Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
The colours, everything.
Yeah, so just to begin it, we're going to talk about what a Chaos Space Marine...
Great fucking problem with that.
Yeah, I figured you did. I'm going to start off talking about what is a Chaos Space Marine. So there's basically two different types of Chaos Space Marines. You have the Traitor Space Marines and the Followers of the Gods. So Traitor Space Marines are not necessarily aligned with the gods, even though some of them may take their power from the gods. And then you have the other ones that are dedicated to a specific god of chaos. Before we go any further, we need to talk about the four chaos gods. Do you know what they are, James? The four chaos gods?
Well, I know Abby, because he's...
No.
Isn't he a chaos god?
No.
Oh, no, it would be the fat dude. You know what they look like? I can't remember what these... There's the fat dude.
Yeah.
I'm just drawing Noble crying right now.
Yeah, Noble.
Just have a picture of fat bastard.
Is Horus technically...
No.
No. He's a Primarch.
Oh, he's a Primarch, but he's not...
So the chaos gods, you have Tzeentch,
Oh, yep.
Khorne, Slaanesh, and Nurgle.
Oh,
Nurgle,
Slaanesh is
the fat one.
Slaanesh is the
She Who Thirsts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one created by the Eldar.
Harvey Weinstein, but hotter.
The sus one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All about pleasure.
Where sex, drugs, and rock and roll are a requirement.
Yes. So we'll start off with Tzeentch. Tzeentch is often depicted with bird iconography, often. And Tzeentch is the god of change. And so he's all about trickery. He sees into the future, the past, and the present all at the same time. And creates long, thought-out plans. And, oh god, I love that image.
Yeah.
He's got a pelvic mouth. Fantastic.
And also doesn't at the same time.
Because there is no physical form to any of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah, there's actually no... As far as we know, there's no technical canon image. Like, there's one of Khorne, if I remember right, but they don't actually have any canon images. Every image that you see is pretty much fan-made.
And basically, when they're described, if you do ever become unlucky enough to see one of the Chaos Gods, or lucky, depending on your perspective, your mind fills in what you think they would look like, because they have no physical form.
That's also warp entities to a degree as well. Like, your brain will filter it to have it make sense to you as to what they would be.
Okay. So like, it might look different to every person. Like...
Yeah, based on our perception.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tzeentch is the god that conducts long, thought-out plans, likes tricking people, full of lies, deceit, and needs constant change. So things in stasis anger him. So the thing is, like, why would you want to follow a god like that, for example? Well, because it is the changer of ways, a changer of your predicament. It is the change of hope for your situation. So that's why somebody would follow him, is that you would find a way out of your predicament, that your destiny is not set in stone. Yeah, so if you're stuck living the most boring life, day after day, you got your 9 to 5, and you just want things to get better, or things to change, and you're praying for those things, that's feeding Tzeentch.
Or you're stuck in debt, or you're in a horrible situation, or something like that, and you're planning a way out, feeds him.
Yeah.
Even unintentionally, you're still feeding that god.
So who does he... Because I know Nurgle is like the undead looking armies. So who does he command? Is it
Thousand Suns?
Thousand Suns. Yes.
Okay.
Because he's all about warp energy and all about like wizards and spells and shit and using warp magic. So obviously that fits the Thousand Suns to a degree. as an army, Tzeentch and Thousand Suns are very range based as well. They're very like spell slingers.
Yeah.
So if you like spell slinging and wizards, they're probably the ones to go with.
Okay.
Also, if you like, if you were that weird kid that liked Harry Potter books, but you also liked riddle books at the same time, that's pretty much you.
Yeah, you're a Zinchi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the next one.
Corn. So Corn,
Not the band.
No, not
not
Korn.
the band. This
But-
is
but you can see-
Khorn.
And that's the one I'm thinking of. I think that's the only official image of Korn that exists.
Yes. So Corn is
The easiest one.
the
to explain.
blood god.
Looks like a fucked up rabbit.
He like
Can you not see that or?
Yeah, I see
yeah.
it.
So Corn is all about martial prowess, blood and gore, and skulls. So he is basically the god of war.
God of
He-
melee mace, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So he loves death, but not just small amount of death, large amount of death. But the other end of that is martial prowess. So if you are like a champion fighter, your victories, your triumphs, your combat prowess all feeds Corn.
Yeah.
But he also loves collecting skulls, and he loves it when the blood flows.
And that's where the famous skulls for the skull throne, blood for the blood god motto comes from, is because he literally sits on a throne full of skulls.
And the bloodletters and the World Eater armies collect skulls for him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does he have a nickname of Maze?
No.
Corn is Maze.
Yeah.
That took me a minute.
Yeah. But also, he does not care from where the blood flows.
He doesn't care if his army loses. The blood is flowing. He doesn't care.
That's why his favored champion is Khan the Betrayer.
From the world eaters.
Yeah.
From the
I was
World
gonna say
Eaters,
World
yeah.
Eaters, yeah.
Chain axes, very good at getting the blood flowing.
Oh,
And
yes.
when Khan kills his own men, that makes Corn happy.
And just a little bit of trivia with Khan. Korn loves Khan.
Yeah.
Korn loves Khan so much that the personal skulls that Khan has made for Korn, like pile of skulls, sits next to his throne.
Whenever you say Khan, I just keep thinking of.
Khan from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think there's like 6 people that would know that reference, but yeah.
Yeah, 3 of them in this room.
Yeah.
But no, that's how much he loves Khan, is that because his own little pile of skulls sits next to his own throne.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He has a mini throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, Corn, really easy one to get. Next, Slanesh.
With Khan as
Yeah.
well. He's in charge of what World Bearers.
World Eaters.
Not
yeah.
Khan. Korn. He's in charge of World Eaters.
Yeah.
Korn is the god. Khan is
The first captain.
the first
Like
captain
the-
to the world eaters.
Yeah.
But
Angron is the leader of the world eaters.
So Angron is the Primarch who leads the World Eaters, and
he
he's a demon Primarch. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he's Korn is sort of like the god of like the demons and the chaos.
So they all have their own
They
demons.
all have their own realms in the warp. And they all have
Yeah.
their own kingdoms, and they all have demons and different types of warp entities that follow their command.
So Tzeentch demons are like purple bird things. They also have
Couple of
like
stingrays,
stingrays looking
yeah.
things and stuff.
Okay.
Very eldritch horror shit.
Yeah.
Like eyes everywhere.
Yes,
But
eyes everywhere, beaks.
whereas Korn's demons are very traditional.
You
devil
have
demons.
you have some of the red,
red.
blood letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like those traditional looking like demons
Would be.
are the Korn berserkers.
Actually, I think if I can pull up the actual demon codex, it actually has a picture of all 3 of the main. There we go. So we got that
Yeah.
one. There's a Tzeentch demon.
So the pink horror casting the spell with the fingers.
casting the
Yeah.
spells.
And there you have your blood letter. So
Yeah.
that's the Korn blood letter.
Korn.
Then that's the Nurgle demon, the
The
one with
plague
all
bearer.
the
I've seen
horns and the
I've
single
seen the
eyes.
Nurgle one.
And then you got
And then the sexy one with crab claws. That's the Slanesh demon. Yeah.
Okay.
So might as well
Sexy
talk about Slanesh next.
may as well.
The Prince of Pleasure, she who thirsts,
That androgynous bitch.
androgynous hermaphrodite that is all about pleasure and turning up everything to 11 on the dial.
And then jumping past that, and then just keep going, and then
Yeah.
just keep going, and then just keep going.
Quite metal. So the Emperor's Children, they rewired their bodies so that pain is registered as pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So everything pleasure and hedonistic, drug, sex, rock and roll is Slaanesh. If you enjoy anything a lot, that's feeding Slaanesh.
And I don't know why, but they've also got this weird, like, little anteater kind of like vibes to some of them.
Yeah.
That's a common theme. I don't know why. It's probably just something about
The
tongues.
the other common thing, as you see, is the chest that has one boob and the rest is man chest. That is
Just-
Slaaneshi
just
to the
amor-
Turti.
Amorphous is everything.
Yeah.
But also heaps of bondage gear, and for some reason, heaps of crab claws.
So yeah, they like inflicting pain on themselves, and they like inflicting pain on others, and that makes them very, very happy.
I've always had it in my head canon that because Slaanesh was birthed because of Eldar shenanigans, that because they're an accumulation of all this Eldar. I've always had this headcanon in my idea that Slaanesh does have like Eldar features. That's personally how I see it, but that's never ever confirmed whatsoever.
In some of this artwork, the Slaaneshi demons
even
have
the
pointed
Demonettes-
ears.
Yeah,
like-
Demonettes also look a little bit
Yeah.
like that as well.
and so that's a seeker of Slaanesh there.
Anything that could be like anything that could be seen as BDSM taken to the level, drugs, whatever type of pleasure.
Yeah, so as you can see in that picture of the Seekers of Slaanesh, that harpsichord is made out of a human.
That's coming out of the dude's back.
They've literally stretched his tendons to make the harpsichord strings.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
And that person's probably still alive.
yeah, that person's alive. Yeah.
That brings new meaning to stepping on balls.
Oh man, they will take your scrot skin and stretch it out and wear it as a cape. It is, yes, Slaanesh is quite literally,
A horny bitch.
yeah, and also, in my opinion, one of the crazier chaos gods.
But
Because the others have like a good aspect to them, like Khorne is the victory of triumph, Tzeentch is change, Nurgle is death and rebirth, which we'll talk about him in a second. But Slaanesh,
It's just sex.
it's just, yeah, the
Depravity.
good side to it is like pleasure, but it's pleasure in a depraved, like manic way.
I would push against that as well, because I would say that because Slaanesh is the representation of negative emotions, the other reason why somebody would follow Slaanesh is because of the positive emotions, like enjoying a podcast with your friends, for example, or just enjoying,
Good sex.
Not even that. Just like even the minute things, like
Eating chocolate.
summer breeze, chocolate, having a nice coffee on a day when you needed it, or just having a good rest. Because there's a book, I can't remember which one, but there's a Sisters of Battle book where the ladies try and take on this Slaaneshi cult, and its seeds happened because the people on this world were just driven into absolute despair over their work lives, that when the machine broke and that somebody had to go fix it and they had to wait there, that was pleasure for them. Or getting an extra hour of sleep was pleasure, or getting an extra tiny bit of ration was pleasure. So that's where Slaanesh can be worshipped, or can have those seeds.
Yeah, I would say that is pleasure coming from pain, though. From a distress, from a terrible place, you get relief or pleasure, and that feeds Slaanesh. Yeah, so Slaanesh is pretty crazy.
Crazy, but I would say that Slaanesh has that good side of the coin compared to the others just as much. It just might be a bit more
Metal.
vague. I was going to say vague, but yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah. And now, for my favourite Chaos God, Papa Nurgle, also known as Grandpapa Nurgle. And
The fat guy.
This hurts me when you say that.
Fat bastard.
So, he is the god of death and rebirth. But he is also the god of stasis. Not wanting things to change, things staying the same, but at the same time, death and rebirth. Eternal life. Necromancers worship Nurgle. the undying zombies of his demons. They can't die. They just keep festering. They keep living forever.
I always see Nurgle as more or less like a proper embodiment of the nature of the universe because of entropy.
Yes.
And because entropy is just slowly destroying and slowly decaying. But then there's that other side of the rebirth part. Because, like, arguably you can say that Nurgle cares more about life than anybody else. Because what's to say that the culture's growing in his morsels or in his back? He cares more about that as the same thing he cares about anybody else. So he cares about life more than anybody else you can make the argument for.
Yeah, not necessarily for individuals, but like down to the level of the bacteria growing in it. Like that bacteria growing and feeding on like your pussy sores is the life that he cherishes. So I always think of it much like his homeworld, a poisonous swamp.
Yeah.
So you see like mushrooms growing out of dead carcasses. That new life is Nurgle.
He's like, yeah, you might be dead, but you've just given birth to a million upon million different types of bacteria.
Yeah.
And
your flesh will feed the flies, and it
Your-
will feed the insects.
your
and-
body will be fertilizer for his garden, basically.
Yeah.
So he's almost like it's almost like a Mother Nature sort of like he's very
To a degree, I would say.
Yeah, he
Like-
is like a Mother Nature kind of god. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
But without the whole caring and compassion part.
Well, no, he does care. but it's
I would say he cares, but like, you know, when you think of Mother Nature, you think of like, you know, a compassionate and beautiful kind of fantasy being, not this fucker.
yeah.
But so of all of them, his demons laugh and are more jolly.
They're all smiling.
They're smiling. The Nurglings dance around. The Great Unclean One.
Oh, yeah, they have a chant as well, don't they?
Yeah, they chant, they sing, they dance around. They are actually having more fun than any of the other Chaos Gods. Like, yeah, Bubis, phlegm, blood and guts, boils, bogies, rot and pus, blisters, fever, weeping sores, from your wounds the fester pours.
That's part of a chant sung by plague bearers during battle.
So they're laughing and singing this as they're charging in, getting parts of them blown away by bolters.
Yeah.
Just having the best time. So the only other ones that laugh and have that much fun are Slanesh.
And orcs.
And orcs, but like of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah.
And Slanesh, they have to be in extreme pain, which then registers as pleasure for them to get that.
Because you also
Nurgle boys are just having fun.
Because you also understand, because you have that cycle of death and rebirth at the same time, you have that essence of, what is the word, finality, where you're like, you're so comfortable and you're at ease with it, knowing where you're going and all that kind of stuff, that, you know, life will be, it's just basically when a guy talks about his feelings and he says, is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But so the contrast to Nurgle's unchanging, everything's like continuing, life continues on even in death, is the opposite of, say, Tzeentch.
Yeah, they're all
So
very opposites of each
Are
other.
very opposites of each other, because Tzeentch wants everything to change, and Nurgle's like undying, just continue living, feeding new life, and from death new life comes, but it's kind of opposing to Tzeentch's constant need of change. So yeah, I love that artwork actually.
I like
That's
that.
really good. That's
That's why it's one of the wallpapers.
it's not canon, it's unofficial, but yeah.
But it's the best unofficial art I've ever seen, because so Khorne doesn't like Slanesh because Slanesh likes to draw out the death and draw out the pain, whereas Khorne's just like, just kill him. And Khorne doesn't like Tzeentch because Tzeentch is all about like trickery, deceit, whereas Khorne's more about like, hey, you and me, honor and glory, we're gonna fight
Just
right now, no
fight
bullshit, no BS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tzeentch doesn't like Nurgle because Nurgle's all about like stasis, and Tzeentch is the opposite. And
Nurgle doesn't like Slanesh because Slanesh is all about suffering and like pain going on forever. And Nurgle, you're not going to feel anything if you follow Nurgle.
his followers don't
They don't feel
anything.
pain.
That's another reason why they're happy.
And also why they're one of the tankiest armies. Like the Death Guard, just like will keep going with half their head blown off because they're just they're still having a great time. They're probably still gurgling out of their mouth hole like the chant and singing. It's just
Okay.
fucking awesome.
So I think we should probably move on because this is not a Chaos God episode. This is a Space Marine episode.
Okay.
So,
Space
but with like Nurgle, so similar to like Khorne has his like lieutenant. Who's is that the unclaimed one?
Well, we're
or-
getting no.
Okay, so well, the great unclean one is a greater demon of Nurgle.
Okay.
But if we're talking Chaos Space Marines, his champion is Typhus.
And
Herald,
more because Typhus answers to Mortarion.
to a degree, but
To a degree, yeah.
Typhus answers more to Nurgle. He will answer Mortarion because who's going to not listen to Mortarion? Mortarion is like super powerful.
Do you remember Mortarion?
No, I
Here,
can't
I'll pull
remember
mine.
which one.
So Mortarion is my favorite Primarch.
Oh yes,
Giant guy with a scythe and moth wings.
yes.
Fantastic. Anyway, we'll go through.
We'll go through them all in a bit. Yeah.
We'll go through the Chaos Space Marine factions now.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where I'm like confused as to where the Chaos Space Marines like join
In terms of
with.
the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Just to point out, what we can say is that comes of the gods at the top, and then they each have their own like demon hierarchy, like goes greater demons and lesser demons, demon princes, and all that.
I would say demon Primarchs
I was
are
about to-
above the.
I was about to get that because they're on their own side thing, but they're also like higher.
But if Mortarion, say for example, gave a greater demon of Nurgle an order, like a great unclean one, that great unclean one is going to listen.
okay,
Yeah.
so they're not on the same. They're
It's,
sort
it's
of
like
on the same
it's
level.
like different levels
but-
of champions is the right way of saying
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
And they
okay.
both command different levels of respect, but there's no actual like formal.
No,
hierarchy,
but
so-
the power level difference
is,
between
is,
like
the, is the part. Yeah.
is the part where they would listen. So
Yeah.
a demon Primarch is stronger than like a greater demon.
Okay.
But a greater demon didn't start off as a Primarch, obviously.
Yeah.
But then you have like say Typhus, which is like Herald of Nurgle, and like what's his term? Is who should know this? Typhus's official term about the God, I've just had a blank.
Describe to me what's happening.
He's the
He's
the
having a
Eater
stroke.
Plague, the Swarm. He's
Yeah.
doesn't matter. So Typhus as a first captain, not a Primarch, but blessed by Nurgle.
Yeah.
He also is at level with like a great unclean one.
Yeah. They're
Strength-wise
powerful in their
and
own right,
weapons.
and that's why the Chaos Space Marines are in there, because they want their power for themselves essentially. But yeah, we'll get into their beginnings first.
Yes.
So obviously, before the Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
Or how
so
have you
all
gone
of
with
this,
next?
all of this is before the Horus Heresy.
No, this is all after.
No, this is all after.
This is
after.
40k. This
Yeah.
is 40k.
yeah.
Okay, so this is all.
So yeah,
We'll
a
start from
couple
the
of them turned.
in the beginning.
Horus
In the beginning.
No, I wasn't going to go back that far. So I was going to go through the Chaos Space Marine factions
Yeah.
and just talk about them
Well,
as they've come
quick-
through.
Quick recap for those that have joined us for the first time. So obviously, back in the day, Emperor of Mankind wanted to create 20 sons, so
Dead
that way
guy
they
on the
could.
chair.
Yeah, big guy on the chair, big dead skull boy. Wanted to create 20 generals, so that way he can, humanity could take their rightful place in the galaxy.
You know what? Even better, go back and listen to our last episode.
Exactly, and even more so. But this is the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
And then they ended up, those Primarchs, the 20 sons, ended up having their own legions.
Well,
Chaos
reduced
Gods.
to 18.
Reduced to 18, obviously, but and then they have their own Space Marine legions, and then half of them turned traitor because the Chaos Gods got in and
In their
stuck
ear
their tendrils, got in the ear,
Yeah.
and the other half stayed loyal. So we talked about the loyalist
Weird.
ones last time. Now we're talking about the ones that turned traitor.
Yeah. So as we go through each of the Chaos Space Marine factions, we will give more of a detail of like how that played through.
We will.
Who they align
Yeah,
to as
And
well.
also a little bit about like why they changed and all that, and the context around that. But we're gonna get each of these guys are gonna get their own specific episodes, absolutely, because there is no way we're gonna be able to get all of this in one episode.
No, yeah. Each one of these will have their own episode where we'll go deep dive
Like some
into
of
it.
these- some
This
of-
is just a base
Yeah.
cover of all of the different
Some
Chaos
of the
Space
Primarchs
Marines.
will probably need 2 episodes or 3 episodes because we could talk about these guys all day long.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Cliff Notes.
Starting us off, we've already done an episode on Magnus, so I thought we'd start with Thousand Suns. Thousand Suns obviously worship Tzeentch.
Arguably not by choice.
By Magnus's choice.
By
pretty
Magnus'
much.
choice, absolutely.
His failures. So we talked about Magnus and his mistakes that led him to coming to Tzeentch and giving into the power of Tzeentch. Basically, when he was fighting off against his brother Russ of the Space Wolves, Russ just about killed him and was about to wipe out his entire legion. And Magnus gave over to the power of Tzeentch, and Tzeentch picked up most of that world and dropped it into his realm onto a planet called the Planet of Sorcerers. And so, yeah, the Thousand Suns are interesting. They use a lot of the powers of change. They're very witchcrafty. Some of them fly on floating discs of magic. So if you like playing warlocks in D&D, this is very much your legion.
Or if you were that weird Harry Potter kid.
Yes, they're all about knowledge, learning more. Magnus carries around a book just full of spells called the Book of Magnus that always sits on his hip. Yeah, they're an interesting legion. Depending on the book and where the lore's coming from, their power level varies a lot.
They're either weak as or they're broke as.
Yes, but face them off against Sisters of Silence, and they're basically powerless.
Okay.
Which that'll require
They're
its
powerful
own
because of
episode.
their psycho powers, but because Sisters of Silence are anti-psycho.
They can't use their powers around them. Yeah.
It's like you're a mage going up against a mage slayer, essentially.
Yeah. You got anything else to add about Thousand Suns?
Not really. I like the Egypt style that they have to them. I'm just going to pull up some images now for you.
Yeah, they got a very Egyptian style.
I do like that's probably one thing. If I was going to do like an army for the Thousand Suns, like I like the Noise Marines, which they're part of.
No, that's Emperor's Children.
No, which we will get into eventually.
Yeah.
But
the
Thousand Suns have the very staff and
It's
ancient
like the
Egyptian.
teal and gold.
Yeah,
They have like
purple.
scarab iconography. They have great big headdresses.
I do like the look of the Thousand Suns.
But they are notoriously hard to paint.
Yeah,
Like it's actually a joke in the
but
community.
I feel like a lot of the Chaos Space Marines are hard to paint. Like
Yeah.
I would
orcs.
say so, but I'd say that's probably the most difficult.
Like
Yeah.
I've just finished painting orcs, and orcs seem to be easier.
Oh,
It's just-
orcs are
Easiest.
It's like just green
Yeah.
and then just
You could
and,
dip,
and they're bulky.
you could
Yeah.
dip them in dirt; it would still look the same, and then on
Yeah.
top of that, it'd actually be lore accurate.
Yeah.
but they look hard to paint as well.
Yeah.
So the other thing to mention about Thousand Suns, because this isn't a deep dive, but there are a lot of jokes made about them being dust. And this is because Ahriman, who is the first captain of the Thousand Suns, right there, he is a very interesting guy.
Very interesting character.
Very interesting bloke. But he was unhappy with how things had gone, and they had a problem plaguing their legion called the Flesh Change,
where they
which
were
we did
literally
talk about in the Magnus episode.
they were literally like turning into monsters and then exploding.
Yeah, essentially, in all sorts of different ways.
Which we will get into the Magnus episode, but
Yeah.
it was a problem with their gene seed.
No, we did already cover it in our "What Did Magnus Do Wrong"
Yeah.
episode, but so
There's no reason why we're
so
gonna
in
get
the
into the Magnus episode.
oh, we
Yeah.
probably will touch on it.
Yeah.
But so basically, he grabbed a spell from the Book of Magnus that is called the Rubicon.
Yep.
And so he got a whole bunch of his legion around, basically everybody, because
That was
Magnus
left.
was off sulking,
Basically everyone that was left almost.
pretty much. And he got them all in, and they cast this giant spell, which Tzeentch was like, hell yeah.
The problem was
Hell yeah.
the problem was it did get rid of the flesh change, but the problem was
It turned them all into dust, except
Literal
for
dust.
the lead sorcerers. So
like a
most
handful
of the because so their legionaries are called Rubicons,
Rubric Marines.
rubric marines. They are basically walking power armor
Walking power armor, but they're being controlled by dust.
with but with no flesh.
So they're inside of a.
Imagine an entire swarm of flies moving a suit of armor.
But that's
But it's
more
dust.
nerdly.
Yeah, that's more
Yeah,
noble.
so it's
But
literal-
imagine that's what's happening.
So it's they have no like senses essentially. They are just power armor that is being like given directions by the few who didn't get changed. So the few who didn't get changed were the head sorcerers.
That's also
So
why
they
that's also why their war cry is all is dust.
Yes.
They're basically they're dead.
Most of them.
Well, no, so their spirit lives on. Their
Yeah,
soul
so their
is
spirit.
still. Their soul is trapped in the armor,
Yeah.
but
It's a cursed existence.
they are basically cursed to be dust and laid in there by their sorcerers.
A good majority of the sorcerers, like some of them are still flesh, but not all of them. Most of them are the dust, and a lot
It's
of them
just the head ones, basically.
Yeah, and then some of them are all. I can't remember. We got to deep dive this a little bit more, but I know that some of them are very automaton because, like the Black Legion.
They are quite automaton.
Like robots.
In fact, it's described in one of the books that basically they just are floating in darkness, and then when one of the sorcerers comes near it, his psychic presence basically allows them to respond more, so they can then kind of respond to almost like an echolocation based off the psychic power of like the sorcerers.
Which is the beautiful irony of them, that they were like, you know, these knowledge chasers and these high intellectuals, and now they're turned to nothing but these robot-like automatons.
So are they basically unkillable? Because if you like,
All of Chaos is pretty much unkillable because they'll just go back to the warp. Now they don't have. Then there's no guarantee that you're going to be resurrected, but if you were that important enough, they can try.
Yeah, and so
Chaos
there is a
undefeated.
way. So destroying all of their power armor essentially could remove them.
so you would have to
But-
destroy the armor. Like, but if you like,
But the sorcerer is going to suck up their soul, basically, and the sorcerers can keep their soul
And
and
put it
then
in
put
something
it
else.
back into another piece of an
Another
armor,
suit-
or
another suit of
repair
armor,
their
or
suit of
another,
armor.
or use it to possess somebody else. So all of Chaos is basically undefeatable because it's like fed in a continuous loop with humanity.
Well, it's very specific for the Thousand Suns. If
specific
you
to the
kill
Thousand
the
Suns, yeah.
if you kill the sorcerers that are leading them, though,
then
you take a lot of the power out of their whole
Okay.
thing.
It's a bit up in the air. Are they unkillable? That's also a bit up to you know your fan theory, I would say, or depending on what evidence you find. But that's the problem with Warhammer, is that some of it's left up in the air
Yeah.
to the interpretation of whoever it is. But
Yeah, well,
there's
there's a couple of good books that actually go deep into it, which we
Yeah.
will talk about more in their like specific.
Yeah.
Because this is not a deep dive on Thousand Suns.
No.
We were just covering the basics.
apologies.
That's the basics of the Thousand Suns.
but
and
they're complicated.
yeah, and they play pretty good as well. Like they're
No, they're trash on the tabletop.
Tier
Oh,
trash.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were good when they came out, but I would say, would you say they're balanced now, or would you say they're trash?
I'd say that they're very low rung. If you play them well, they're low rung. If you don't play them well, they're total trash.
They're very
And
strategic.
And it
from what I
depends who you're
remember.
versing against.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
anybody
true.
with anti-psychic keyword is going to demolish your entire army.
Mm.
Yeah, because you're basically all psychic.
They all
They're
get
all
the psychic
psychic.
keyword.
Yeah.
Alright, so moving on to the next faction. Black Legion. You have a bunch of Black Legion models.
I by accident, yes.
Yes. So these are the
$2,000 later.
yeah, these are the black and gold boys. So Black Legion started under Horus.
Yep.
Horus turned traitor, killed by the Emperor. Abaddon, the first captain, then became the leader of Black Legion. So, but what makes the Black Legion really interesting is they pull people from all of the other factions into it. So he basically brought chaos together.
Yeah.
Their whole thing is like the Black Legion could have World Eaters and Thousand Suns,
Oh, I
and
know.
they do have them
I-
fighting in.
That's how I was able
But
to
they,
get my army up.
but they
Yeah.
strip away their previous legions like colors, and they paint themselves in the black and
Black
gold
and gold.
to try and like set up like a promise that we are together in this legion kind of thing.
Yeah, and so they are what is called Chaos Undivided. So they don't serve one Chaos God. They take power from all four, but swear no allegiances. But the Chaos Gods allow this because of what they actually accomplish.
Rather have it and than not have it at all.
Yeah,
Would you say that they're one of the bigger armies then, because they can?
I would say
absolutely. Black
I would
Legion
s-
is probably the biggest Chaos
So they-
Space Marine ever.
I would say they're the biggest Chaos Space Marine, but I wouldn't say they're the biggest faction. Like out of all the other
Would they
factions.
be similar to like with the Space Marines? They're the Blue Boys. They're like
Ultramarines.
okay, so they're like the Blue Boys equivalent of the Chaos.
They're the
Space
poster
Marines.
boys for chaos because they are the spearhead for chaos essentially.
And also in the new law, Abaddon, leader of the Black Legion,
Abby.
yeah, Abby,
My dude.
Abby, Mr. the Despoiler, he has aligned with Vashtor in the Arcs of Omen books, which then has given him
Is
even
technically
bigger power.
He's trying to be the fifth Chaos God, essentially, but that's another story for another time.
Yeah, Vashtor is trying to be the fifth Chaos God.
Gotcha.
And essentially kind of already is, but he is
No,
a newer Chaos God than the other four, and so doesn't quite have the power to match the other four.
Gotcha.
He's got power, but he's because he still has like a corporeal form, or like can like assume one. I would say he's got a long way to go before he can like command a giant like the same level of Khorne, I would say.
But he's not fucked with by the other four Chaos Gods.
But because of that, he's not held to the same constraints.
Yeah, so because he produces all of the demon engines for the other Chaos Gods' armies. So none of the other four Chaos Gods fuck with Vashtor because he's going to take away all of your demon engines.
And they never mess with it, and the other four never mess with him because he's essentially the black market's arm dealer for Chaos because he creates all these amazing machines and everything like that.
Okay.
He equips them out. But yes, anyway, back to Black Legion. So Abaddon, leader of the Black Legion.
He's technically now the War Master, isn't he? He's War Master.
Well, no, because the War Master title basically disappeared with Horus because...
But they still call him War Master, don't they?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, they call him the Despoiler.
Well, I know they call him the Spoiler, but don't they also call him War Master?
No, War Master was only a title used in 30k. I don't believe it's still used in 40k, but...
Oh, in the animation we just watched, they call him War Master. Yes, my War Master, that kind of thing. But either way, it doesn't matter.
I was under the impression that they didn't, and they did away with that when Horus died, but...
Either way.
He's very cool. Abaddon is, in my opinion, cooler than Horus, even though he's not a Primarch. He's buffed by the gods.
I would
He
say he's
uses
buffed to
the...
Primarch level now.
Yeah, pretty much at Primarch level, because he can use Horus's claw, which is awesome. He also has a sword called Drachnian, which is a demon sword. It's
No,
the soul.
We've got to call it by its name. Bagler.
Drachnian. Drachnian,
Yeah.
which is a greater demon residing in the power of his sword, which is just absolutely wicked. I mean, a few of the demon Primarchs have weapons that have demons inside them, and even Harkin Worldclaimer, who serves Abaddon, he has a greater demon inside of his spear, inside the Hell Spear.
Angron does too, but we'll get to him when we get to that.
Yeah. So yeah, the Black Legion, very interesting. They're great. They're like, if you want to take bits and pieces of each of the
Everything?
Chaos
Yeah.
Lords, then you can basically run them as Black Legion.
Yeah.
I would say that the reason why someone would like Ultramarines is the same reason why you would like someone like with Black Legion, because you can take a bit of everything and it would make sense. And I wouldn't say they're plain Jane or like the white bread, but they are like the standard, I would say. It's probably the right way of saying it.
So
and then the other ones are like specializations.
Yeah. So what first drew me to the Black Legion, because I have a Black Legion army as well, is the idea of taking these crazy, wild Chaos Space Marines of these very, very different views and bringing them together under a common goal. It's basically the reason that Ghazghkull Thraka is really cool, is that he's brought together like people that hate each other.
The Orc War boss.
Yeah, the Orc War boss. He's brought together these people that basically hate each other and war against each other to fight on the same side against the Imperium. So he is like the great uniter of chaos, which is why he's loved so much.
Whilst on top of that, doing the forever eternal spinning plate job of trying to keep all four Chaos Gods happy, whilst not giving one too much attention and at the same time not neglecting another. Because if you give Khorne too much attention, Tzeentch is not going to be happy with that, or and then the others. So you got to do that all middle management thing.
He's pleasing four gods.
Yeah, at the same
that's
time.
Abby that's doing.
Yeah,
Abaddon's doing all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's interesting, good character. I love the Black Legion books because he's trying to like control a whole like command crew of like 1,000 Sun, just sitting there watching a Night Lord try and kill a world eater, and then like all that kind of funny business.
It's wild.
It's super fun.
Yeah.
Now the next one.
World Eaters, the servants of Khorne, led by Demon Prince Angron, or Demon Primarch Angron.
Yeah, Demon Primarch.
They're the red boys, aren't they?
They're the red boys. They love chain axes. They love running in and tearing you to absolute shreds with their weapons.
They're like Ash Williams on like crack.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they are primarily melee, especially if you play them in tabletop. They're melee focused.
You can do range, but it's not advised. It's not what you're best suited for.
That's not what all their buffs are. It's not what their stratagems are for. Basically, you run in and you cut people to shreds. And
Yeah.
the reason that they painted their armor red, it's even said in one or two of the books, is that they paint it with the blood of the people that they've slain.
Because that was originally their color scheme. It was white and blue.
Yep.
I thought it was going to be similar to Deadpool, so you can't see the blood.
No, this one so you can.
This
see
is they are
Painted.
painted in the blood of their enemies. So we talked a little bit about Khan the Betrayer, the first captain. Very, very cool guy. Very, very interesting stories.
They were the ones that started the whole tradition of chaining your weapons to your arms, and then the Black Templars took that because Sigismund worked with them. But
Yeah.
we'll get into that later.
So they are all about ferocity, absolute like carnage, and yeah. So
Just
blood for the blood god,
No,
skulls for the skull throne.
Just essentially, you're over there, I'm coming over you. Oh, why? Because I'm here to kill you.
Yes.
And you know why? Because you suffer from the crime of existing in my presence.
So their fall to chaos was pretty interesting as well.
Oh, tragic
Angron,
as though.
super, super tragic. Angron, basically, on the planet that he landed on as a baby, it was like a giant Colosseum world.
It was like all the negatives of Rome, essentially the slave side
yeah.
of it all.
So
like Hulk world, like with
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
So they implanted these things called the butcher's nails, which basically gives you pain for anything that isn't basically rage.
They look like dreads because of how many are in his head.
Yeah. So the only thing that doesn't cause him pain is rage. Rage gives him a temporary relief from the constant pain.
Yeah.
He can't be happy. And his legion decided that to be like Dad, they were all going to implant butcher's nails in their own heads.
But the problem is that because this tech was like from the dark age of technology, there was no way they could figure out how to actually get it out of his head.
Yes.
So what they did instead was replicate it so that way they could be closer to Dad.
Yes. And
Khan-
so
Khan
they
was,
they
Khan was
can
the first one, wasn't he?
Khan was the first one.
Yeah.
Khan's story is actually really interesting. So he got made first captain because
He was-
all of the first captains kept going to Angron's room, and Angron just kept killing them.
He was
Beating
the only one
them
that
to
survived
death.
the beating.
And so Khan goes in, and he survived the beating, and Angron's like, ha! Alright, you're alright.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then
you took Primarch fists to the face over and over again, and yeah, so that's Khan there. Oh,
And we're not even talking about Lataris. Right?
No, that's gonna be its own episode, 'cause she's badass.
She deserves her own episode.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so Angron, it's a super sad backstory. We'll go into it in his episode.
He just basically kept degenerating, but there's a bit more to it. But essentially, he just followed the path that everybody knew where he was going.
Yeah.
And like even on his own model, you can see where you can still see he has the butcher's nails.
Yeah.
So he does eventually turn into a demon, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we're
so
gonna
he
get-
becomes a demon Primarch.
But for the reasons why and how, we're going to get into his own episode.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good. It's a long backstory.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's tragic.
But then
He deserved better, but also he makes such a fucking cool mini.
he makes a great mini.
Yeah.
But yeah, he again very straightforward like Korn, but tragic as well.
Yeah. Also, dual chain axes.
No,
chain axes.
that's the other thing I was going to mention. So the sword, I
Yes.
can't remember the name of the sword, but I'll find out in a second. That's a Slaneshi demon that he beat into a pulp and beat it into a sword.
Yeah, he literally
He-
crushed the
he-
demon
he
into a
beat
sword
it
by punching
Tom
it.
and Jerry Looney Tunes style, beat it so bad that it just turned into a sword.
But he started off dual chain axes, and
Yeah.
and Khan the Betrayer still has dual chain axes.
Yes, that particular chain axe was created on a forge world that was loyal to Horus, and then they created him a chain axe, and then they were like, here, we spent so much time and effort on creating this axe for you, and then he's just like, you dare give me a weapon that isn't bloodied, and then proceeded to kill the whole world.
Yeah, the whole world.
What is it, spine grinder or something like that?
Yeah, I think it is Spine Grinder.
Yeah, the weapons. Yeah.
Samni
Yeah,
Arius and
that's-
Spine Grinder.
Yeah, spine grinder is the axe, and Samni Ares is the the demon,
Yeah,
That's insane.
and those are his stats.
yeah, and
But
just really,
yeah,
really cool.
Insane. Yep, that's Angron to a T.
Yeah, that is basically it. Insane, brutal, savage. If you like metal, you probably like the World Eaters.
Yeah, if you like metal,
It
if you
is-
were like 1990s punk, like, you know, you only ever had two emotions, like, I want to hit something and I just hit something.
Yeah, it very, very cool though. All together, I'm a bit of a fan. The only reason that I don't like them tabletop wise is very one note. They aren't a very strong army because if you can use ranged and you can keep them ranged,
Then
you will
Tau-
obliterate them.
Tau, Eldar, and
Emphis.
probably Emphis would probably be your worst enemy.
Eldar absolutely would trump them
Yeah.
because they move fast and they shoot.
So do they not move far? Like
Oh, they
they're-
can move far.
They
and
get
some of
7-inch movement for
some
their
of the
demons.
units, yeah, some of the units can move 7 inches, and if you use rhinos well, if you can get a Terminator squad come up behind them, that's fine. But the thing is that you're basically Gears of Warring it, where you're just going from
You're-
boom to
you're
from
running-
cover to
you're
cover to
running
cover.
into it,
Just
yeah,
like,
okay.
sorry, please don't, please don't, please don't.
Yeah,
if you-
in Gears of War, if you didn't have guns.
Yeah,
But if you do get
yeah. You just had the chainsaw.
Yeah.
if you do get into them, but like if you
Oh,
do
you
get
win.
into like Infist or Eldar or whatever,
Yeah.
then you would be a really good, like you would do really well on the tabletop.
Melee
Yeah.
is where they specialize, but just gotta get
But
into it.
Yeah,
also,
you gotta get
on
there.
the tabletop, Khan the Betrayer has rules where if... I can't remember what it is, but you basically, if you fail a check, he kills some of his own guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's it. No, it's if you don't get into engagement with somebody, you have to engage the nearest model.
Yeah, or,
regardless.
if you fail like an attack on, or like you don't get into engagement range.
Or if you haven't hit somebody this round, you have to.
Yeah,
somebody else.
if
I
you
don't know,
haven't-
it's
if-
something stupid.
yeah,
like that.
if you haven't melee attacked that round, basically he attacks his own people
Yeah,
God damn it.
because you got to keep the blood flowing for
Yeah.
corn.
yeah, and that's just like out of control. He gets his own episode. We'll keep going.
Yeah. Anyway, so
Next one.
word bearers. These are
I'll let you take whatever.
these are the biblical boys.
Yeah, these are the choir boys that turn to Satanism.
They were the first ones to declare that the emperor is a god.
They figured out like 40 years beforehand.
Yeah.
On the before the Horus Heresy happened, and laid the seeds for the treachery.
Yes. So Blake is currently reading The First Heretic. I read The First Heretic just recently.
Yeah.
Basically, their whole backstory. They worshipped the god. They were the most faithful of all of the legions.
Yeah.
And then
To-
the emperor
They were the
To
most.
Imperium.
to the
they were
to
the
the emperor.
most-
Yeah.
Okay.
That was actually their gene seed difference for they were created to be loyal and
Yeah.
to be loving, like caring and loving in that regard.
So they
But
were
then,
like they were the poster child for like they were the ones that were
They were the most
Like-
zealous.
zealous
they were
and
they
yeah.
were like
If
he
I had,
was their god.
Absolutely.
if I had to describe them in one word, it'd be worship. That would be
Yeah.
it.
But then the emperor
Wasn't happy with that.
wasn't happy with that. Turned up.
Hated religion.
He's like, I'm not a god, he says, as he psychically blows back 10,000 word bearers with his mind, stripping them like bits of their
Like,
armor
bits of their
off just
armor
with
were flying
psychic
off.
power.
Yeah.
Just sent them all flying.
It's a very godlike move.
Yeah.
Super godlike moves
And
while he's
then-
saying, I'm not a god.
And then essentially burned down their equivalent to Jerusalem.
Yes, burnt their main planet.
Yeah.
Oh, their main city, not the whole planet. The Monarchia was actually only the city on the planet,
They
I believe.
burned. I think they burned several of the
Yeah,
places
most
around
of the planet basically got destroyed, basically.
because they were worshipping the emperor as a god, and the fedora wearing atheist that he is was like, nah.
So then Lorgar decided, yes, the emperor is a god, but just because he is a god doesn't mean that he is a god worth worshipping.
Yeah.
And so then they go out on a big seeking. They
The
try to seek the
pilgrimage.
the pilgrimage where they try to seek the knowledge, and they discover
new
somebody who tells them, "Oh yeah, the emperor is one of your fathers, but you actually have 4 other fathers,
They go-
and they all love you more than the emperor does."
They went to the Eye of Terror where Slanesh was born.
Yes.
Oh.
And they then discover the Chaos Gods and they're like, wow, these guys, when I pray to them, give me power.
Yeah.
They have a long intertwined story that we'll definitely cover.
Yes. So that's just the cliff notes. Basically, they study worship at a level where they're like, if we do these sacrifices, this will happen. If they are willing subject, we will get less power.
Yeah.
So then find unwilling subjects to then tie up and torture, because then that will make our spells stronger, because that's what the Chaos Gods want.
They are all about possession and using demons. Like, letting demons in on themselves to make them stronger.
Yes.
They are all but in the world of 40k, like, if you actually pray to the gods will listen.
Yeah. So they were also the first ones to get Chaos Space Marines in the ideas that we know them.
Yeah.
So basically, demons imparted themselves into the word bearers. And so that gave them the transformation with the horns and everything that we know with the typical Chaos Space Marines.
They became the possessed, the ones with the units you've got.
Yeah, and Lorgar, their Primarch, is a demon prince, a demon Primarch, sorry. But he is also Chaos...
It's easy to confuse.
It is, yeah. But he is also Chaos Undivided.
Yeah, because he follows all four of them and thinks they're all worthy of worship.
Yes, and he is the chosen son of the gods. His first captain, Erebus, basically is the one who turned Horus against the Emperor.
Erebus, like, everybody hates Erebus because fuck Erebus, because he was the one that started the Horus heresy, essentially.
Yeah, he we'll go into that in our own episode, because that's too much.
Way too much, yeah.
Alright. Iron Warriors.
Do we have to?
Iron Warriors are basically Chaos Imps.
Yeah, I think Imphis, but like
big tanks
with hazard stripes.
Big tanks, rockets, vehicles, lots of arms coming out of their backpacks with different
the best way to describe them is imagine like industrialization to the nth degree.
Yeah, they love new weapons, big rockets, world-ending bombs, all of that kind of shit.
Function over fashion, essentially.
Yeah. I think I was somewhat going to paint my Chaos Space Marines similar to these guys, and then went Black Legion. But
it's because you were painting them like silver and black, and I wasn't sure which way you were going.
I was sort of doing like a Terminator-y sort of paint design. But yeah, I did look into a bit of these guys, and that's when I then went to the Black Legion. But
yeah. So their Primarch, who became a demon Primarch, is Perturabo.
But not by choice as well.
Not by choice. He was basically tricked into it by Lorgar.
Peter Turbo.
Yes. Everyone calls him Peter Turbo. Because his name's Perturabo. He's basically a man-child. His turn to chaos was, I just wanted to make cool things, and I was forced to make weapons.
He was essentially landed on a planet that was like, imagine Greece, but steampunk. And he just wanted to do artwork. Basically, he just wanted to create like
aqueducts
and shit like
buildings
that. He just wanted to make shit for like people and like build buildings as an architect. But his foster dad was just like, no, make war machines.
Yeah. Wait, make tanks. Yeah, make tanks for me.
Yes.
He is very tanky looking.
He is super tanky.
But he's like I said, it's more of like a what's the word? Super optimization is probably the best way of saying it.
Yeah.
And essentially the reason I would say one of the biggest rivalries between the Space Marines is the Imperial Fists, my boys, and the Iron Warriors, because they're very much the yin yang of each other. Mm-hmm. They're like Perturabo was always upset by it because Dawn got better jobs, but the reason why he got the better jobs is because he had the better mentality.
Yeah.
And Perturabo whinged a bit.
Yeah. So Perturabo builds siege machines, and Dawn, leader of the Imphis, builds walls and fortifications.
Now, both are good at both, I will say. It's just that they're both more known for fortification and sieging. That's where the whole you'll hear this if you stay in the community groups where it's like siege, fortify.
Yeah, I think I've even made the joke before.
Yeah, and it just went over James' head.
Yeah. And that's probably enough talk about Iron Warriors.
Yeah, honestly, I do want to, like, I know this is heretical as me as an Imperial Fist chaplain, but I do actually want to read more of his books, because I know that he's like a prick, but he's also an interesting character. And that's why I love Warhammer as it, because one does not preclude the other, or exclude the other as well. Like Kurz is a maniac, but he's also an interesting character.
Yeah. Well, Peter Turbo, one last thing.
Turbo.
Yeah, he loved his foster sister, but in a sulky rage, he snaps her neck and kills her.
Oh.
So he's very much like he's a sulky man baby, basically.
Throwing tantrums.
Yeah.
And obviously we're going to piss off a lot of Iron Warrior fans. Iron Warrior fans, yeah.
Yeah, but they're just not our favorite. Yeah,
all three of them, yeah, I can fight, it's fine.
Yeah, they're just not my favorite Legion. I find them kind of boring.
Yeah, I find them like... I personally do consider them like the Iron Hands of the traders a little bit.
Yeah, there's not enough lore to make them interesting, basically. If they got
I wouldn't say that, it's just I don't resonate with them.
Yeah, true.
Not yet anyway. They may...
I do want to read Hammer of Olympia, which is his Primarch book, and I do want to know a little bit more about them. Yeah. So I'm not shut off entirely, but it's just at the moment that's the preconception that I've got of them.
Now, my boys, the Death Guard. And I will try not to spend an entire hour talking about the Death Guard because they'll also get their own episode.
Although you being slow about it would make sense.
They are followers of Nurgle. Mortarion is their Primarch, and he is a Demon Primarch. We already talked a little bit about him and Typhus. Basically, Mortarion landed on a world of necromancers. That was basically a Nurgle world from the very get-go. He didn't have a lot of chance to escape.
Which one's Typhus?
Typhus isn't there, but that's Mortarion there.
That's Mortarion.
Mortarion and Typhus don't like each other. They used to be brothers and used to be best mates.
Yes.
But now they don't like each other.
But but Typhus is...
He's the first captain.
He's his card to his
he's the first captain of the
Death Guard.
Yes.
So Mortarion basically he gets a bad rep in the community as like a stinky boy and boring.
Justified.
No, none of it's justified. He
that's your bias.
Yeah, no.
I mean, he is.
I hate how I typed in Typhus and it actually came up with the actual Typhus.
Yeah, no. We need 40k in there. Not symptoms.
No, not symptoms.
He does have a really cool looking mini.
Oh yeah, and so the scythe that he carries, he made that himself.
Are we talking about Mortarion?
Mortarion.
Yeah.
The gun that he made, called Lantern, he actually built that from scraps that he found. Because basically, when he landed on this world of necromancers, the Overlord basically took him in and was like, this could be interesting. Kept him as like a slave and like a servant. That's Typhus, yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah. And so I've
seen his mini.
His body basically became a hive for the Eater Plague, which has a little
squirrel brain.
Yeah,
squirrel brain.
Squirrel brain. Yeah, so we just popped up with a picture of Typhus and got me talking about that.
Yeah.
But Mortarion, super interesting, very complicated story that I like. It resonates a lot with me. Basically, he is a psyker, but he hates psykers because of his necromancer overlord, who basically tortured him.
Made him
I wouldn't go so far as to say foster father. We said jailer is probably the right way to say it. Because they were also chaos influenced as well.
Yeah, so the necromancers served Nurgle essentially. Yeah. So he was doomed from the start. But we'll go deep into his story because I can absolutely do an hour just on Mortarion's backstory.
I did dunk on him a little bit before I read Buried Dagger and no, Buried Dagger's the only one I read. Yeah. I did dunk on him a lot, but like saying that he was tragic boy, Emperor stole my kill kind of shit. But I do think that he is tragic in his own way, and he is very. He's a more interesting character than what I thought he was. But at the end of the day, wah wah wah, ha 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 ha.
But yeah, so he
dance, ha ha ha.
He hates part of himself because he is a psyker. Yeah. Because pretty much all of the Primarchs have some psychic abilities. So it's kind of like that, like having a part of yourself that you can't really ever accept. Yeah. And then also being forced by other people to do their bidding when all you want is your own freedom, and never being able to achieve that. He is, just really, really cool, in my opinion. But yeah, so the Death Guard serve Nurgle, super tanky. They carry around scythes.
Are they also very melee based, or, but they also have sight.
I would say that I wouldn't say they favor range or melee. Either
Oh,
way.
they are absolutely melee.
Melee. Do
Yeah,
they?
so
Okay.
they will
'Cause they-
slowly walk up, taking hit after hit after hit,
Because they're
and
the
then
ones that can.
cut you to pieces.
They're the ones that can like lose an arm and still keep going. Like they're not like.
the degeneracy.
Wait, and it's Slanesh showing.
Yeah.
But they're the
yeah.
ones that can be hit and
Yeah.
keep going.
And so they're like, their demons are the plague bearers
yeah,
and the nurglings, the little like chubby like the super happy boys. But the plague bearers are basically zombies.
yeah.
They're infected with disease, and they slowly trudge forwards and basically, infect and disease everybody.
And tabletop wise as well, they're the ones that can, like, if you lose like an army, like you can roll to get them back. Like
No, so they just have invul saves and
they have
and
saves.
things like that.
There's
The plague bearers actually do come back once you kill other people on the tabletop. So if the plague bearers kill certain other units, you can turn them into plague bearers essentially.
That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that they can be very tanky, but you have to get them.
Super
close
tanky, and they're
That's the balance of it, though.
yeah. But basically, they also have their aura of their units. Basically, makes it
It increases
harder.
every round.
It increases every round, like a spreading of the plague,
Oh,
and it
that's
makes it
sick.
it makes it harder.
Is it the armor penetration or something like that? Or
Objective control
That's
and
it,
and leadership tests, I
So
believe.
they don't have to be as close to the objective to still be able to hold that objective.
Yes,
something like that, yeah.
and Mortarion buffs that too.
makes your enemies' units weaker because
Yeah.
imagine you're an Imperial Guardsman in a trench and then you're just watching these lumbering things coming over the hill, but you feel them before you even see them because you're just like vomiting and just like diarrhea and blood coming out of your
And
eyes.
there's a
stuff.
buzzing black cloud heading towards you that is just flies.
That's sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they go down your mouth and all that. Like
Yeah, and
just
they
just
eat you
that
up from the
nightmarish
inside.
shit.
And they sting you, and then they make you pregnant, full of like maggots and flies of just to feed off your
that
flesh.
level of body horror kind of stuff.
It's crazy coming off the Space Marine episode. They bored me. Like it
Space
seems like
Marines?
Chaos. They have so many cool attributes.
That's why they are cooler than normal Space Marines. I'm
I
glad
would-
this episode is already
I
doing
would say
its job.
a different kind of cool.
No,
is
they're
the right way.
cooler.
No,
I have like it just like more
to
of
be
these-
fair, we didn't go into
we
each
didn't go
faction in
into
each
which
chapter
will
as
probably be-
deep as we have these guys in this one
Which
because I had to explain what a Space Marine was before we had to get to Chaos.
Yeah, which we could probably do that in the next one, but
The other downside as well is that with Chaos Space Marines is that they're a pain in the ass to recruit because you essentially have to corrupt an already made Space Marine.
yeah.
So replenishing their or resurrect one that's already passed away, and so number replenishment is also hard on their end as well.
Yeah.
But because they are all warp based, their numbers basically stay the same.
Can stay the same, yeah, but
Especially
I would
for
say it
Death Guard.
I would say it depends on where you are in the hierarchy and power levels as well.
Yeah, but Death Guard in particular, with Nurgle being the god of death and rebirth, they don't really reduce their numbers.
But
They
there's
just keep
already
coming
there's
back.
already like 3 faction armies that I want to buy now.
Yeah.
Chaos, but like there was
And
none
we're not
really.
even done.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like buying specific units and then painting them for that specific. So I'm not
yeah.
making 3 armies of the same units.
Yeah. Anyway, as much as it pains me, let's move on from Death Guard.
Yeah, but let's not talk about too much about Death Guard. 3 hours later.
Yeah, pretty much. Alright, so Alpha Legion, the sneaky spy boys, the infiltrators. They love entering other legions and having their legionnaires pretend to be members of the other legion. So they, using their esophageal gland, will eat the progenoid gland of other Space Marines to gain their memories, and then have their psychers reshape their faces
And
to
also,
look
like
and also surgeons and
and
apothecaries.
surgeons and apothecaries basically take the flesh off dead legionnaires and put them on their own to impersonate other people in other legions.
Because the book you're reading at the moment, Deliverance Lost, that's exactly what happened on this fan. Is that an Alpha Legion found a dead Raven Guard, and then in the middle of battle had taken his armor and then flesh made his face and changed it so that way he looked like that person, that
and then ate the gene seed and the progenoid gland
you had
to
the
get the
memories.
memories. Yeah.
Because remember how I said that when we were going through Space Marines, they eat the flesh and they contain the memories.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They just use it in that way.
Yeah.
So they're basically just like they're like the spies.
I can
of
see how
space
I can see
legions.
like Space Marines would use the memories to be able to go, okay, well, they're gonna move here because they've discussed their strategy.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Chaos guys use that to be able to infiltrate or to be able to.
Well, Alpha Legion specifically.
Alpha Legion
they-
specifically use it to infiltrate, whereas Night Lords use it because they want to feel the fear, and then on top of that, like learn their tactics of the other of the enemies.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Sons of Rust, which are Space Wolves,
Yeah.
and Blood Angels as well. I would say to a degree,
Yeah.
but that's also a curse thing.
But
But anyways,
Raven Guard. Would
no,
be-
Raven Guard don't do that.
Oh, they
That's
don't
enough.
do
That's
that.
enough talk about normal Space Marines. Back
mean
onto
the-
Chaos Space Marines.
Best Space Marines.
No. So the iconography for the Alpha Legion
Is the Hydra.
is the Hydra. They have a twin Primarch. So their Primarch is actually two people, Alfarius
when
and
they were-
Omegon.
When they were yeeted into the warp, they were split.
Yes. So they are the smallest of the Primarchs.
Because like you can
Stature size, but they have a lot of their legion made to look exactly like them,
The Space Marines,
all-
ironically, are the tallest.
and they act like some of their legionnaires, their normal Space Marines, pretend to be the Primarchs, so that when they're killed off, it's like, oh, we killed Alfarius. No,
Bullshit.
you didn't. It was
As
just a
if,
normal
mate.
Space Marine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Like
they,
it's rumored Gilliman killed Alfarius, and I don't believe that for
It's
a
very
second.
face off.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much. And so they also live on their ships when they're going through warp. They take normal, like, quarters. They don't have their own special quarters. No one knows where they are. They take a different name of a random legionary and are like, "This is me," and they just live like the other
But
legionaries.
aren't they smaller? Didn't you say?
They're
that?
the
The
smallest of the
Primarchs are the
Primarchs.
smallest.
Oh, okay. So, but they would be normal height.
They're
of,
normal
like,
Space
yeah.
Marine height.
Yeah,
Okay,
so for example, you could be looking at like all Primarchs like talking to each other, and then you see Alfarius over there, and I'm like, that's probably a Space Marine.
Yeah.
Like I know for a fact.
Their other
that-
Space Marines don't know who the Primarch is at certain
Yeah.
points.
So how do they command them? Like,
Well,
if-
that's actually a very good point. Is that they operate on a cell basis. So like, like we know for a fact that one of them is dead. One of the Primarchs is dead. I know that for a fact because it has to be one of them. Because okay, what I get to is that they're very cell operate where one sergeant will control or one captain will command a certain amount. Because when one of the Primarchs died, very little changed with their command structure because they were already segregated to the point where their operations just kept going regardless.
Yeah.
And they have hidden frequencies that are used primarily by their Primarchs that they have access to that the others don't to give orders without being ever face to face with the other Alpha Legions.
And the Space Marines of the Alpha Legion will get like surgery to make themselves look like the Primarchs, so they all look identical.
Yeah.
That's what I was like. How would you know that you're being told an order from a Primarch when it could just be in it?
That's why one of the 5 common jokes that you will hear in the Warhammer community is "I am Alfarius," because that's a common thing. It's saying that I am Alfarius.
Yeah. And then
You don't know if that's true or not.
their actual Primarch book ends with
Begin
and
end with
begin and end with
"I am Alfarius. This is a lie.
this is a lie.
I am
So
Alfarius.
you
this is a
never
lie."
know what's true, what's not true. Everything is clouded in deception. But the one very, very cool thing about the Alpha Legion is the spear. Do you have the spear there?
I'll pull it up.
There he is.
Yeah.
The Hydra spear. That thing is badass.
Was.
It still exists.
How does it exist when Dawn used it? Didn't Dawn shatter it and then put it
But
through
didn't they put it
Alphas?
back together?
Did they? I don't know.
I thought they might have put
That's
it
the
back
that's the
together.
problem. I like the Alpha Legion on the surface value, but the problem is that I can't like them because they don't really have an identity. But that's their shtick,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Yeah,
And so like one book might say that this happened, and then you find out in another book or another thing, that was actually a lie, that they just propagated that to like create
Nothing is
misinformation.
true. It's like what is it? Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Nothing is true. Everything's permitted.
Yes.
So everything is canon. Let's go.
Yeah. That everything is canon. Everything is also a lie.
Yeah, and that's what I like them for that reason. But at the same time, you know, so we know for a fact that one of them is dead because during the Horus Heresy they tried invading Pluto, but Dawn was there. Dawn. Dawn was there and took on one of them. And I know for a fact that it was one of them and not the Space Marines, because you cannot sit there and tell me that a Space Marine went toe to toe with Dawn.
And lasted more than a
lasted
second.
more than a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of them has died, but you don't
Either
know.
Alfarius or Omegon is dead,
You don't
but
know
at the same
which-
time, like that whole kind of fuckery thing, we'll get into their own episode because
Yeah, because it needs its own
trying to
episode,
explain
just like-
that is, I feel like that Charlie guy from Cop. What is it?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, yeah. But so they are another Chaos Undivided Legion. They don't serve a single.
Well, we don't even know if they
Chaos
serve. We don't even know if they serve chaos. We don't know.
Lord. Yeah, so they are, like I said at the beginning, they're not really a follower of the gods. They're more of a traitor legion. So they don't like the gods or the gods' power. They don't really take from it. It's more of a means to an end. With like some of them.
They're also the least corrupted because
Yes.
they look like normal Marines, so that way they can infiltrate normal Space Marines.
Yeah, so they haven't taken power from the gods as far as we know. They just
They haven't demonized, like they haven't
No,
changed
yeah.
or
We
anything.
don't know much about them
So
because
they're-
that's their shtick.
Yeah, so they're traitor, not a follower of the gods. They like a lot of the Night Lords, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah.
Don't like warp fuckery or anything like that, but they hate the Imperium still.
Okay,
so
because
they're
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Are they for the Imperium?
no.
But-
So
But,
they
just
no,
for
but we
themselves.
also don't know that too because during the Horus Heresy they made some questionable choices as well. That I was like, are they traitor or are they loyal? Or was one of them traitor and one Primarch loyal and the other one was traitor?
Well, my answer to that is that. Anyway, no, that has to save for the episode because
Yeah.
that's going to go really deep.
yeah,
Emperor's Children.
yeah.
Emperor's Children. The Slanesh boys.
These are the guys that have the Noise Marine.
These are the Noise Marines.
With
They
the
are
ones.
bright purple. Their Primarch is Fulgrim,
Yes.
who, man, is he just...
So
Pretty
this is
awful.
my next army.
Yeah.
This is
I've
the
said
one that
this
I'm
a
actually
lot,
going to
but-
get when they do come out at the end of the year because
Yeah.
I'm so keen. For it.
Fulgrim is Snake Boy. He is a demon Primarch and he turned into a snake.
So that
the-
was him pre-corruption,
Yep.
and then this was his model now. So this is his canon version.
Oh, he got the new model last
Horus
year.
Heresy.
Yep.
Yes.
4 arms, poison daggers,
He
wings,
is-
and a snake body.
He is a sick looking primer.
Yeah.
He's super tragic too, in my opinion. I love his book. The Fulgrim book is one of my favorite books.
So I have no sympathy for him.
I get
The
that
Emperor's
too.
children wanted perfection. They're all like, everything. We want perfection. We strive for perfection.
They were given the short end of the stick from the get go, and I personally think that they had that mentality of turning a horrible situation into their better and like overcoming that.
I don't know. They had a pretty good start.
No, they did.
They were basically praised,
no,
and
they were
the only
reduced
ones
down to
given.
200.
They were given the Aquila. They were basically used as like the diplomat legion by the emperor. They went on diplomatic missions more than conquering missions.
Well, the reason why that was is because they were reduced down to 200 members, whilst the Ultramarines were like 250,000.
Thousand Suns only had 1,000.
Yeah, and then they came back, and then they got reduced back down to another 1,000.
Yeah.
But no, the reason why they were used as diplomats is because there was only a handful of them until Fulgrim came along, and then they rebolstered their numbers.
And because they're pompous.
And they're pompous, and they were basically they were the sons of families from like
Noble families, yeah.
They were gnomes.
rebellious noble families because they were
Yeah.
had to offer their. We'll get into that with his own, but they're basically imagine trust fund boys. What could lead a battle, if you know what I mean? Could lead an army.
So even though they still follow the sussy god.
Yeah.
They're not as like full on into like the pleasure pain.
Oh, they are.
No,
Oh,
they
they
are.
are.
They are.
Absolutely.
They go
So their
heavy in that.
legions had surgery to make pain register as pleasure in their brain.
Oh, so they're
This is
Yeah.
So the reason why they went to Slanesh was because it was just natural, because of them wanting to be the best at everything, wanting everything.
Do you have the picture of the Space Marine that basically has part of his skin being pulled back by the the claws that the space... Basically, they flay themselves to create pain because that makes them feel good. Have you seen that image? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
So basically, there's a Space Marine, and part of his back is lifted up by like 4 prongs that, like, basically because he's like flayed his own back.
On a round.
Yeah, that kind of
I think I have seen that.
But not that one. It's all good. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so basically they inflict pain on themselves because it's fantastic. They are so depraved. They are the super most depraved of all the Chaos Space Marines, in my opinion.
They are horrible, and at the same time,
They're more depraved than the Night Lords, in my opinion.
I would say that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these guys, the guys that also have the Noise Marines.
Yes.
These are the ones with the Noise Marines.
Yes.
So the Noise Marines.
For those of you that don't know, Noise Marines are essentially rock guitarists.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they increase their vocal cords. They basically put a speaker for their mouth,
Yeah.
and they screech at the top of their lungs, and it blows out the eardrums and causes incredible pain.
It literally disintegrates someone with a cord.
Yeah, and which the Noise Marines are cool. The Noise Marines are cool.
So
Yeah,
sick.
I'm keen for them to get their refresh at the end of the
Absolutely.
year. That apparently isn't happening, but it totally is.
They are the only cool thing about the Emperor's Children, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I don't agree, but
know
at the same
you don't
time,
agree.
but at the same time, I understand.
Yeah.
It's not because like I think they're awesome, or I think that morally they're good, because no, they're not.
Yeah.
It's because
Their metal is fuck.
the metal is fucked, but also it's because when you read the Fulgrim book, you sympathise with what they're trying to do and aim for perfection.
I
but
did not, but
No,
yes, I understand what you're saying, but I did
like
not.
trying to
Yeah.
aim for being the best because they felt like they had to prove it to themselves. But the problem is that because they aimed for perfection, they didn't care about the methods they got there. They messed with their gene seed. They implanted alien organs into themselves. That's where the whole noise thing came from. They implemented an alien vocal cord box into... It was Eidolon, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it did like a Black Canary banshee scream, and that's where it came from.
Yeah. Okay, so I take back what I said. Noise Marines aren't the only cool thing about Emperor's Children. Fabius Bile is very cool, but also Lucius the Eternal is a smug prick. He's a horrible person, but basically Lucius the Eternal is called that because if you kill him and you take any pleasure in it, he comes back as you. He basically infests you, and like
He
you
possesses
become
you,
Lucius
and
the
then slowly
Eternal.
become him.
Oh, that's sick.
And
Yeah.
so on his like plates, on like his shoulder plates and stuff, there's the faces of all of the people that he has killed and basically taken, and you basically become a little face on his armor.
There is an episode of it on Hammer and Bolter which you should watch. It's really good. We should probably do a reaction to it. Maybe.
We should. That would
Yeah.
be cool. But yeah, so Emperor's Children do have some cool gimmicks.
I'm keen to see what refresh they're going to get and what Fulgrim's going to
Yeah.
look like, because I know everybody was upset when Horus Heresy got announced at Fulgrim. Like, yay, Fulgrim model, yes! Oh, it's
Because
Horus
this is
Heresy.
the first time that Fulgrim had a official model, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was for Horus Heresy,
for
a
Horus
different
Heresy.
game.
Yeah.
for 40 than 40.
Yeah.
But they haven't got a Fulgrim mini for 40k yet.
Yet.
No.
It's obviously coming, because when you look at what the Chaos Space Marine codexes have come out, you've got Death Guard, you've got Thousand Suns, and you've got Angron World Eaters. Those are the 3 that follow individual gods. So it's obvious that
Emperor's Children is the fourth
is
that
the
follows
fourth
one
that's got a
specific
specific god.
Yeah.
Night Lords are not going to get their own codex. Iron Warriors, yeah, I know. Word Bearers.
Maybe
Alpha
eventually,
Legion.
but not.
I would say
anytime
like
soon.
10 years in the future, maybe, but like they're going to flesh out the big 4 first,
Yeah.
and then maybe get their own codexes.
Yeah.
But like that's also a pipe dream as well, I think.
Yeah. So Emperor's Children, pretty cool. Their first captain is Eidolon. He was the first of the Noise Marines.
Saul Tarvitz is a loyal Emperor's Children.
The loyalist.
Saul
Yeah,
Tarvitz,
he's
Munchie.
awesome. Yeah. But in the Fulgrim book, you feel more for the remembrances than you do for anyone
Oh,
else.
super, like, so tragic, the story. Like, I gave you one of the Fulgrim books.
Yeah.
Read it. It's disgustingly interesting.
Disgustingly interesting is a good way to put it because there's a painter lady.
No, don't.
Okay,
tell
sorry. Anyway,
yes.
Some of the listeners may know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Moving on from Emperor's Children, we have Blake's favorite. Ones that you've just gotten recently,
Yes.
the Night Lords.
Ave Dominus Nox.
And you can probably take this one if you want, Blake. You can.
What do you think of one?
Yeah, of
the
course.
emo boys.
No, you shut your face.
Yeah.
Hey, I like.
Okay, so
They are the coolest.
I will posture and make the argument that Konrad Kurz is the most. What's the word? Am I trying to say? The most tragic Primarch.
Children.
I would agree that Kurz is one of the most tragic backstories.
I would say the most tragic. So essentially, what happened is that Kurz was originally set out to be like, what was he? He was meant to be like the figure of justice out of the 20 Primarchs.
Yeah.
And then he was set when the gestation pods were like yeeted into the warp. He was sent to basically space Gotham.
He is dark Batman.
And
You think about committing suicide, he's going to kill you because that's a crime.
yeah, exactly. And so imagine an entire planet of Detroit, Rockhampton, and
basically
and Gotham,
yes.
Chicago, all that crime shit.
So the world is basically run by heads of gangs.
Yeah,
And the gangs are terrible. They run everything.
yeah,
Basically, there's a story where a kid is walking down an alley and he sees a woman being by a couple of gang members, and his friend's like, don't stop, the gang members might see you, and if they see you and you've seen this, you're gonna get killed,
Yeah.
Keep moving, just do your own thing.
Yeah.
And so he brings terror and fear to the gang lords in a very Batman style,
essentially what happened was
Yeah.
he came out of his gestation pod, and because it's a mining world, he went nearly to the planet's core. He just kept straight going, and then he had to punch his way out to the core. And then the moment he got out, he had like a sliver of the gestation pod, and he had it as a knife. And then he came out, and the first being that greeted him was a homeless man that tried to eat him, and then he had to kill him to survive. And
kill and then eat him.
Kill. I don't know about the E part, but probably I wouldn't be shocked. And then he had to basically cannibalize to survive. And by cannibalizing and by eating these people, he was able to absorb their language, their culture, and he understood everything. And because he hunted down, there was no actual. He didn't even understand this as well. But there was like an inner drive for him to chase after these criminals and kill them, because he was meant to be the embodiment of justice in the Emperor's eyes, and like doling out punishment. So he would chase down these gang lords. He would consume the criminals, and then figure out, by consuming their information through the gene seed, through his gene seed, he was able to understand where they were, and he knew all their secrets, and he was able to track them down and hunt them down. And in so doing, became what's called, his moniker is known as the Night Haunter. So that's what.
So he is pretty much the Dark Knight.
Imagine
Batman.
Joker, Silence of the Lambs, and Batman.
So you love the Joker Batman.
Yeah, the Batman who laughs.
The Batman
He's-
who laughs.
he's pretty much the Batman.
That is who he is. But I think the most tragic thing about Kurz, in my opinion, is that he recruited from this world of criminals. So the people under him, that's serving under him, are like murderers and
It didn't turn out that way originally. So originally what happened was that he was recruiting the best of the best, but the problem is that his own legion then supplanted that, and then just like, why should we give Conrad our best of the best, and then just instead emptied the prisons. But Kurz didn't know about this until it was too late.
And
So
he'd already.
They are basically scum. The Night Lords are cowards, and they only fight battles when they have overwhelming odds, and they love flaying because it's fun.
yes, but so there's one of my favorite stories is basically one of his captains is killing like a criminal, and he's taking pleasure in killing this criminal, and Kurz basically like, you're as bad as this murderous scum, and then kills his captain.
Yeah, and the problem is that Kurz suffers from horrible dreams. He's cursed with dreams of his own death. Every person he interacts with
At the Emperor's hand.
Yeah, he sees his own death at the Emperor's hand by an assassin. So he sees his own death in the future, and everybody he interacts with, he sees their death, whether by his hand or not.
Yeah.
He's cursed by these prophetic dreams. Now the thing is that him and Sanguinius, Angel Boy of the Blood Angels, they both have the same.
I knew you were going to shoehorn Sanguinius into our Chaos Space Marine
they
episode.
They are the yin yang of each other because Sanguinius can see the future, but only the good futures, whereas Kurz can only see the bad futures.
Okay.
So that's why they have that kind of shared mentality.
Yeah.
But it's also a matter of what mentality do you carry with you?
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Lorgar of the Wordbearers is also plagued by nightmares and never sleeps well. In a similar way, basically, it's some chaos shenanigans.
Yeah. So the Night Lords are scum, but that's the other side is why I like the whole yin yang thing. Is because Imperial Fists are I would say the embodiment of what a perfect Space Marine is, whereas Night Lords are the exact opposite of that. And I think they are the perfect in my idea of what a traitor Marine is.
Yeah.
It's because they don't follow chaos. They do use chaos, but they don't exactly follow a specific god. That's why they're in Chaos Undivided.
They're undivided.
Yeah, but so their whole thing is they take a horrible gang leader that's murdered millions of people, the flame of all of his skin and hang him up by a meat hook so that people can be like, that's what happens if you murder. So he reduced crime on the planet to nothing.
Yeah, crime went down to 0% because they were so afraid of Kurz. And he became the first king of Nostromo, which is the name of the planet.
Yeah.
And
which also interesting because Nostromo is its own character in their story.
It's great.
It is a tidally locked world that is constantly in the darkness. Its star is basically...
It's not tidal locked. But it is a planet that orbits a white dwarf star. So there's no light.
There's no light.
Yeah.
And so that they all have the pale skin, and their eyes of the Nostramans basically developed to see in darkness.
So the first time the Emperor turned up and him in his glowing golden armor blinded anybody that looked at him.
And that happened even to Lorgar's, and he just basically made the Raven Guard weep when he turned up. The Emperor just showing off.
Yeah, essentially. But do you show off if you're not doing it intentionally?
Well, he can turn it on and off. Because he did for other legions.
I know.
So he absolutely is showing off because he's a prick.
Yeah, the reason, but I would say that...
Don't speak well of the Emperor on my Chaos Space Marine episode. God damn it!
I will do what I want, thank you, as a chaplain of my chapter. But I think that they are the biggest underdogs, is the Night Lords. And that's why I think everybody likes them, because the Night Lord trilogy books are so good. I like the Night Haunter book. I haven't gotten to the Night Lords trilogy yet, but it's because it's on my list, and I have a list that I'm going through.
Also, Power Claws.
Yeah, Power Claws are awesome.
The
Wolf
Power
Claws,
Claws are pretty
yeah.
cool.
I think it's shown how much they actually get loved by the community because of how many 3D printing stuff there is.
Oh.
And now they've come out with the first Claw Nemesis box.
Yeah.
And I'm just like...
Also, their books are
Claw,
rated... the Kurz books and the Night Lords books are
Some
rated some of the highest in the community. The best books.
One of the most...
Definitely worth a read. I haven't read them myself. Blake's read all of them.
Except for the Night Lords trilogy, but I'm getting to it eventually. And I think that it's because when you look on Audible and you see how many ratings they get, it's just stark contrast to everything else.
Apparently it's the best. They're the best written books.
I would say that and Infinite and the Divine. But I said, I'll read it first.
Yeah.
And obviously I'll read it before we do our Night Lords episodes. But yeah, I like it's just everything about them I like. I'm very detail driven, so when
Except
I see... Sevatar is awesome. Prince of Crows is a great audiobook. Sevatar is arguably one of my favorite characters.
No, it's not Sevatar. It's the painted count.
No, Scrivok.
Fuck Scrivok.
Fuck Scrivok.
I mixed up Sevatar and Scrivok. Scrivok is
never do that.
A turd.
Scrivok is known as the painted count. He was a Night Lord. I can't remember if he was a
captain.
He might have been a captain or a commander, something like that. He was the one that told the Nostramans to, taking money on the side. Just give us whoever's in your prisons. And just give us that. And you keep all the people there, but you give me a bit on the side as well. And then that way, and also, he was directly involved with their training, so they were loyal to him first before they were loyal to the Night Haunter. And I like...
He's a betrayer. He's a prick.
So he's a traitor within the traitor.
He's a traitor within a traitor.
He's an awful person.
But he's the main reason why the Legion degenerated. In terms of... Yeah. But anyways, they deserve it. They all deserve their own episode.
And we will absolutely.
Yeah, and because I will talk about this all day long. Anyway.
Okay, and we're approaching an hour and a half, so to wrap this up, just I thought we would have a quick look at some of the models and why they're cooler than the normal Space Marine models. So
This is my iPad. This is my iPad. I can just shut this off right now.
you have some of the Chaos Space Marine models. You realise why they're cooler than the normal
Actually,
ones.
before we go further, which one would you say is your favourite besides Abaddon?
Besides Abaddon, I mean, I kind of really like the Curse.
Oh, from
models
Forge World?
From Forge World, that model is really cool.
I like that one too.
But I'm kind of going to like, is it Mortarion?
Yeah.
Mortarion,
He is really cool. I mean, Vashed is pretty cool too. Like just the way that he looks. I don't mind the way that he looks. But yeah, Mortarion is.
Yeah, this is cool. This is Corbin bringing out his Mortarion one.
Yeah, it's not finished being painted, but you can see there is Mortarion. He actually has a base with rocks on it, so he sits a bit higher. But he also has these little flying demons that carry little like incense.
Carry the bells and everything, yeah.
Yeah. Then he has his scythe, and that's Lantern, his plasma gun that he made from scrap on the world.
I also like the look of the Unclean One. Like,
Yes.
his model's pretty cool.
Specifically Rotigus. So Rotigus
Yes,
is the
Rotigus.
named Great Unclean One, and fantastic.
Yeah.
Huge, great big models. They have little details on all of the Death Guard too, which have like, you can see there's little like pock marks, but there's also little like maggots that crawl out of them and stuff like
The
that.
Death
too.
Guard do have a lot of details in their models, which I really appreciate. I will never start a Death Guard army just because of money and all that, but I would definitely buy some of the Death Shroud, which are Mortarion's boys.
The bodyguards,
Yeah, just because of the sheer detail they get.
I'm a bit afraid of painting. Like I would have probably bought Death Guard over the Chaos Space Marines, but I saw how detailed some of the painting was, and being my first army,
You wanted to go basic first.
I'd rather do like a basic.
That's fair.
A Chaos is still can be quite detailed, but like a basic Chaos.
Not to the degree that
Not
these
so- not
the
so-
specific models are.
The Black Legion's pretty simple. You paint everything black and then you do
and
gold trim.
Yeah.
Like they were the third army that I painted. I went Ultramarines, Orcs, then Black Legion. And Black Legion, even though they are a little bit more detailed, if you can do the fine brushstrokes of the trim, you can make them look really good.
Yeah, I've sort of gone Black Legion, and then I've done Orcs, and now I'm gonna do I have the Dark Angels.
The interesting contrast that I find is that when you get like Mortarion, Death Guard, and Angron, and you get Zinch either,
Fulgrim.
and not Fulgrim, like the models that are already out.
Oh, yeah.
The Death Guard World Eaters and Thousand Suns, is that they have their own models. They look great, look brilliant. I definitely want to paint them. But like when you look at like the other legions that don't get any love, like Word Bearers and Night Lords, what is it? The necessity breeds creativity, or something like that. And because of that, I've had to go around the extra steps and get 3D printing, and I've cut up a bunch of Age of Sigmar models just so I can like change my my Chaos Space Marines to look more Night Lords. So I like that they're supplying us with these cool models, but at the same time, there are some that you could do your own. It's the forced creativity where I've had to take it. I do also enjoy. But what would you say is your favorite model? Would it be Mortarion as well?
I would actually have to say that Mortarion would probably be my favorite model. There are so many awesome ones. I do love the demon engines. The possibilities with the demon engines are just sick. Like you have a few of them, but like the Forge Fiend, even down to the little hellhounds that run with the corn, like little mechanical demon dogs.
They're pretty
I love that. Also, a lot of the demon models are really cool. The very basic ones. You got like the little pink and blue horrors of Zinch. You got the demonettes of Slaanesh. Yeah, there's so much more variation. And just like
that is where Chaos Space Marines excel over. I will say excel over normal Space Marines is because of the variation. Because normal Space Marines loyalists are like stock and like soldiers. They do have their variations. Like when you compare a
Space Wolf
a Space Wolf to an Imperial Fist, because they are different, but at the same time, like when you do Imperial Fists or you do Ultramarines, they are your stock and soldier.
They do.
Yeah,
They do have like as well. I feel they're not as like they're not as like large and detailed as well. Like you see like the what's his name, the guy from the Dark Angels, the
Little Lyle Johnson.
yeah, his
Mr.
model
Lion.
his model it's like cool and it's a big but it's still very basic.
Yeah.
Whereas
It's
like
straightforward, yeah.
yeah, and even the Ultramarines
Gilliman.
like they're cool models, but they're
Yeah.
still like they're just a bigger version of a Space Marine.
Yeah,
They're not
yeah.
like whereas like you see with the Chaos, they're
There's
So
such a
different.
variation.
so
Yeah.
like Angron is like a massive like red demon, and then you've got the uncleaned one, and then you've
Yeah.
got like Mortarion. Like they are so different. Like
It's
they
different
yeah.
personalities.
they
And
look
your base
different to
unit.
their army as well. Like they
Yeah.
stand out because your army will all look the same, and then you've got like this massive dude at the back that like
Yeah. And even as you put them together, like the basic Death Guard Marines, there's different bodies you can use that have tentacles coming out one side or a great big hole in it. Then you look at like your basic like Space Marine assault intercessors, and it's like, okay, big gun or pistol and chainsword. The variation is so limited, and then it's like, okay, what color am I going to paint them? Depends on like what legion you're doing.
yeah.
But there's like customizability just in the like building of the units, which I quite love. Putting together.
It's the fun.
the
It's half the fun
models.
is deciding
the
what class
kit
it can be. Yeah.
bashing and
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that.
But yeah, the thing is with Space Marines is that I love my Imperial Fist so much that it did force my creativity. So when I see other people like in groups posting things about like different types of kit bashings they've done, or when I look at the Angels of Death series where they have like different like kill team level different paintings for each soldier, it made me want to get like combat knives and put them on the shoulder pauldrons of my Imperial Fists and paint them differently, and paint like give them the personality. But it's also hard because they're meant to be like soldiers.
They're meant to be. So
Yeah.
they're meant to be just like
But with Chaos Space Marines, they just have such individuality,
yeah.
and I totally get that.
Yeah.
Personally, I would have to say my favorite model of Chaos Space Marines would have to be Angron,
Yeah.
just because of how badass he is. I love Mortarion
Yeah.
because of the pose, and he's definitely one thing I want to get one day. But
Yeah.
I just love Angron. Now, for normal battle line, I would have to say my favorite model is the Master of Executions,
Yeah.
just because of the pose and the simplicity of it, but at the same time the detail in it. I don't like the head, so that's why I put a Night Lord's 3D printed head on it, and it just made the model so much better.
And even for such like a small mini, like it's like a normal size like to all the other guys, but they can be so detailed. Like they do like stand out
Yeah.
amongst like the other ones. Like, and you can. I found when I did my Master of Executions, I did a bit of kit bashing where he's sort of standing up on like a platform sort of thing, so you can make it look like, even though they're the normal size
Yeah.
of like normal Marines, the Master of Executions you can make really cool. Like there is a lot of
And,
customization.
and even in Chaos Space Marines, there is a force of creativity as well.
Yeah. It's just a shame that the Master of Execution plays so terribly on the
Oh.
tabletop.
I wouldn't know. I haven't actually properly played them yet. I've only killed yours.
He
so-
has no range options. It's only melee. He has
Well-
one cool rule, whereas if he kills a character, then he gets a buff.
Yeah.
But
Better that
it's,
than
it's
nothing.
very situational, and he's slow. A cool model, not very good on the tabletop.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that probably wraps up our Chaos Space Marines overview. We will definitely go into way more detail as we do a faction focus, looking into the specific ones. Yeah.
Going forward, what is a topic you want to talk about next, James?
Well, we've done the Space Marines.
I would suggest taking a break from the Space Marines. We've done Space Marines, we've done Chaos Space Marines. Maybe we look at one of the Xenos factions.
Heretic.
I do like the Votan.
Yeah. Or Orcs is always
the
a good
newest
fun.
one, yeah.
They're pretty cool. They're just like they're dwarf they're just like they're minis.
Yeah, they're space dwarfs.
They're just space dwarf. Like they're,
Diggy hole. Diggy
Yeah, I think Votan could be a really interesting next unit. So
Votan.
maybe we could do that as our next
Because and
episode.
I think it will also be good because they don't have as much lore as other factions, so it'll be easy for us to talk about.
Well, they don't have a Primarch or anything leading them, so it's
Nah.
just their faction.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we could do like because we've done an overview of Imperium, we've done an overview of Chaos. We could do an overview of the Xenos, like
Oh, there's
Just
too
do it.
much Xenos
There's too
lore.
many
Basically,
Xenos, so-
you've
so,
got orcs. We'll probably have to do an orc one separate, but we could
We're gonna
do.
do all this.
We're gonna
There's
do-
no way we're gonna be able to get all this.
I love orcs. We're going to do an orc episode, we're
We
going to do a Gazgul Thraka episode, and
We
then we're
just
going to
did
do an
cha-
orc
We
vehicle
just
unit.
did
episode.
chaos, and we're still at an hour 40, and we didn't even go into too much detail.
We could do Votan, and then also maybe look at because I feel like Necrons is going to be a big discussion.
Yeah,
Oh
well,
yeah,
it's
we're
like-
going to have a
it's like-
Necron
yeah.
episode, we're going to
We're
have a
gonna have
Trazen
episodes of
episode,
everything,
then
yeah.
we're going to have a
We could also
Stormlord
leapfrog
episode.
it, do like something Imperium or something Chaos based, and then do a Xenos, and then do something else, and then do something else.
Yeah.
But we'll get that sorted, and we'll have a look at the skill tree and see what you want to do next.
Yeah, so, but I'm happy to move forward with Votan as our next one. And then maybe we do some basic humans like some Astra Militarum or some
Astra
Admech or
Militarum.
something
or
like that.
Mechanicum. Or
Yeah,
something.
Mechanicum's always an interesting one.
Hmm.
But yeah. Well, anyway, that is my episode on what makes a Chaos Space Marine cooler than a normal Space Marine. Thank you guys for listening. Your support is always cherished. I've been Corbin.
I've been Blake.
And I've been James.
Don't be a heretic.
Heresy rules.
See
Death
you
to the
guys.
false emperor.
See you guys. Have a great one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.